Supervisor Support Training Series, Module 3, Delegation, presented by Katie Wilson and David Farrell. Course description. In this module, we will cover the art of effectively delegating. You will learn the different principles for effective delegation and how to successfully communicate the tasks and create accountability. Throughout this module, we will be working to understand the what, the why, and how of delegation, reviewing the art of delegating tasks. We'll also look at the importance of creating accountability through delegating. And then we'll follow that up with discussing whether to delegate or not to delegate. Objective 1, understanding delegation. The definition of delegation is described as the act of assigning tasks to a group of or individual employees. Stepping into the world of delegation can be terrifying if you allow it to overwhelm you. Remember, you are the one in charge. Let's take a look at how to do this. The first step to delegating is to look at the overall task from beginning to end. This can be overwhelming, so you will want to break the whole task into groupings of manageable responsibilities. Be sure to keep in mind an obtainable end goal. Prior to breaking the assignments into tasks, it's best to decide how you will delegate. Will you break the tasks into even pieces of the pie and delegate evenly among this team? Or will you break the tasks up by groups and delegate based on individual staff members' skill sets and abilities? The weight of the distribution and ability of the team to complete the tasks will decide if the completion has been successful. Remember, be realistic in your expectations. But wait, it's not that simple. You will also be required to decide if the task requires you to participate in the completion, taking on a task yourself and working beside your team, or are you able to delegate all aspects and monitor? In the earlier modules, we reviewed the importance of playing an active leadership role when supervising your staff, and delegation is a part of this as well. The end result is ultimately up to you. Remember that the choices you have made throughout the task and delegation process will have an effect on the end result. Objective 2, the art of delegating tasks. When the tasks are broken down and you have delegated them to your staff, be sure to follow up by communicating not only what the task is, but be sure to include what your expectations are. Letting your staff know your expectations for the end result will allow for them to decide how best to complete the task. Throughout the task completion, remember to be present and ensure all resources required to complete the task are available to your team. Be sure to set clear boundaries when you're delegating. Boundaries will control the tasks and keep them on track. Boundaries also allow for accountability. Holding your staff accountable for the completion of the tasks you have delegated to them will increase the effectiveness of your supervisory skills, but will also solidify your ability to be in control of the tasks. It's important to remember not all tasks will result in completion. They may require additional coaching along the way. It is in the incomplete tasks and the failed attempts that you have an opportunity to learn. Failure is not always a bad thing when supervising staff. It allows for coaching with your staff. Remember, hold the staff accountable and implement consequences if the situation warrants. It's important that you remain constant. Objective 3, the importance of creating accountability. After delegating tasks to your staff, follow up for validation. Validating that the task was completed according to your specifications creates accountability. If your staff know that you will be rounding and inspecting their work, it is less likely they will cut corners or skip steps that you have delegated. As a supervisor, you will need to provide continuous communication and guidance to your staff. This is your safety net of sorts. It allows for you to coach and correct any missteps while the tasks are in action. This will increase the goal of being completed and achieved. Be sure to focus on the results when they completed and review this with your staff for any areas of improvement. This is your chance to also note areas of strength that your staff members have and allow you to delegate appropriately based on the skill set of your next task. Objective 4. Not everything is created for delegation. Prior to breaking down your assignment tasks, make sure it is suitable for your staff to be engaged in. As a supervisor, it's important to remember that not all tasks are acceptable for your staff to complete. Familiarize yourself with your direct duties in your supervisor role and learn what areas are not the responsibility of your staff. One item that supervisors need to remain in control of and not delegate out is the creation of the culture within the unit. As the supervisor, remember, you set the tone and lead in the direction of the culture you are tasked to create. It is also not appropriate to delegate out any performance reviews or monitoring to your staff. The staff are unlikely to be unbiased, and cultural differences play a role as well. The completion of this task is intended solely for the supervisor. Other items to consider off limits for your staff will include performance coaching, disciplinary actions, hiring and firing of their peers. It is also important to consider remain in control of any changing processes, as well as updating and educating your staff on any policy or procedure changes. And now we're going to switch it over to my friend David for some scenarios and closing remarks. David, take it away.
Thank you, Katie. Let's think this through via a scenario. Vanessa, the charge nurse of Unit 2, is having a stressful morning shift, and the day's just started. The consultant pharmacist is there auditing the records and asking her a lot of questions. The medical director is making rounds, examining residents, and writing a lot of new orders. And there are only 4 CNAs on duty instead of 5, and the unit secretary called off sick today. On top of all that, 2 new admissions have already arrived, and the CNAs are starting to take their breaks. On duty, you have Carol, a new CNA who just finished her orientation 2 weeks ago, Patricia, another CNA who's a veteran. She's been at the facility for 10 years. She's reliable and consistent. Then there's Dennis. He's a part-time floater CNA, occasionally works with the team. The other CNAs don't really like working with him. Then there's Fancy, another CNA. She's been there for 3 years. She's well liked by families and residents. And then finally is Jen, an LPN, the medication treatment nurse. She has 5 years of experience, but she's not very outspoken, fairly quiet, but good clinical skills. With all that's going on, it's time to prioritize. 4 people need your attention all at once: the pharmacist, the medical director, and the 2 new admissions. Well, let's start by prioritizing who the most vulnerable of the 4 people are. And that's the new admissions, the new residents. They need you first. So best to excuse yourself from the pharmacist and let her know a specific time when you can meet with her and answer her questions. Then go check on the new admissions. Make sure they're safe and bring the LPN with you and ask Jen, the LPN, to help them settle in. Next, catch up with the medical director. Find out if there's any critical new orders or any findings that you need to hear from him directly. And then finally, meet with Pat, the CNA. Ask her if she can cover a few critical duties that the absent unit secretary would cover. And that's it for Module 3. Please take the post-test and then move on to Module 4. Thank you.